us continually. The gamut of Negroisms was wide. Wearing city shoes on a mountain hike was called a Negroism, as was engaging in a conversation on a train with a fellow traveler or in the street with a passerby, or speaking to a neighbor from your window, taking off your shoes in the living room, warming your feet on the radiator, complaining on a mountain hike of thirst, fatigue, or blisters, bringing greasy cooked food on a hike along with napkins to wipe your fingers. On our mountain hikes, only certain foods were allowed: fontina cheese, jam, pears, hard-boiled eggs, and we were only allowed to drink tea prepared on a portable stove by our father. Frowning, he would lean his big head, covered in short red hair, over the stove, while shielding the flame from the wind with the flaps of his rust-colored wool jacket, the pockets threadbare and singed. He always wore that same jacket whenever we were on holiday in the mountains. Brandy and sugar lumps were, according to him, Negro stuff, and therefore forbidden on our hikes, and we were never allowed to stop for a snack in the mountain chalets, as this was considered a Negroism. Protecting your head from the sun by wearing a kerchief or a straw hat, or from the rain with a waterproof cap, or tying a scarf around your neck, were also deemed Negroisms. Such preventive wear was instead precious to my mother, and the morning before we left on our hike, she would try to slip these things into a rucksack for both our use and her own. If my father laid his hands on any of them, he would angrily throw it out. While on hikes, wearing our large, rigid, lead-heavy, hobnailed boots, thick woolen socks, balaclava helmets, and snow goggles across our foreheads, with the sun beating squarely down on our sweating heads, we would stare with envy at the Negroes who strode easily by in tennis shoes or lounged at the chalet tables eating cream. My mother called mountain hiking the devil's idea of fun for his children, and she always tried to stay home, above all when the outing included a meal, since, after eating, she loved to read the paper and then take a nap on a sofa indoors. We went to the mountains every summer. We rented a house for 3 months, from July through September. The houses were usually far from town in some remote location. Every day, our rucksacks on our backs, my father, my siblings, and I went to do the shopping in the village. There were no amusements or distractions of any kind. We children and my mother spent the evenings in the house, sitting around a table. My father retreated to a distant part of the house to read, every so often sticking his head into the room where the rest of us were talking and playing together. Frowning and suspicious, he complained to my mother about our servant, Natalina, who had disturbed certain books of his. "Your darling Natalina, that half-wit," he would say, careless of the fact that from the kitchen Natalina could hear his every word. She was, however, accustomed to hearing herself called that half-wit Natalina by him, and took not the slightest offense. On some evenings during our mountain holiday, my father would prepare for the next day's hike or climb. Kneeling on the ground, he greased his and my siblings' boots with whale fat. He believed that he alone knew how to grease the boots properly with the fat. A great clashing of metals would then be heard throughout the apartment, as he looked for crampons, pitons, and ice axes. "Where have you hidden my ice axe?" he roared. "Lidia! Lidia! Where have you lot hidden my ice axe?" He would set off for a mountain climb at 4 o'clock in the morning, sometimes alone, sometimes with an alpine guide who was also a friend, sometimes with my siblings. He'd be so worn out the day following these climbs he'd become unbearable. He'd read the paper silently, his face red and swollen, having been burnt by the sun reflecting off glaciers, his lips chapped and bleeding, his nose covered in a yellow cream that looked like butter, his brow furrowed and stormy. Any trifle would